Also thank the Ottawa Chamber Orchestra Quartet for their entertainment during their dinner. Merci à nos musiciens. Thank you. Very nice. And now we move on to a very special part of the evening where we honor our province's paramedics for the many special things they do throughout the year. Et maintenant, nous procédons à la partie d'honneur de la cérémonie. To lead us through this portion of the program, I'd like to call upon our longtime chair of the Ontario EMS Awards Committee, Chief John Pernot from the region of Waterloo. Tonight, John also has a twin, Ottawa Paramedic Superintendent Stephanie Logan, to add a little bilingual flavor to his commentary. Mesdames et Messieurs, Chef John Pernot de la région de Waterloo et Surintendant du Service paramédic d'Ottawa, Stephanie Logan. There you go, my friend.
Now you have to guess who is who. Thank you, Chief, and good evening, honored guests, fellow EMS chiefs, and especially our award recipients and your families from 2 provinces. I'm proud to say that this is the 12th time that MMSO and now the OAPC has sponsored this awards gala, and this evening we'll be presenting over 140 awards for excellence in our profession. I'll be back shortly to help present our Career Achievement Awards, but first, a number of very special awards for acts of conspicuous bravery performed by Ontario paramedics. I'd like to ask the McNally and OAPC award recipients and their chiefs to move to the base of the stage at your right, and also ask for City of Ottawa Deputy Mayor L. Chantry, Chair Mark Taylor, Warden Bob Sweet from the County of Renfrew, and, well, actually, it does say Chief Norm Gale, so Norm can come up too. And then I'll turn the stage back over to your Master of Ceremonies and my alter ego, Stephanie, over to you.
Where's Warden Sweet? You're making your way up, sir? Thank you. Gentlemen, before we begin, on behalf of my colleague Pernod, Stephanie, and myself, if we mix up some of the names tonight, our sincere apologies. It's not meant. I thought DeMonte was complicated, but there are a few names in tonight's awards that are a little difficult, and they're well-deserving, and so for them and their families, I give you my sincere apologies if I don't do it well. I was going to say something else, but I guess I won't say that. The N.H. McNally Award. The N.H. McNally Award was established in 1976 in honor of Dr. Norman McNally, the father of Ontario's ambulance system. Dr. McNally was hired by the provincial government in 1966 to oversee the development throughout Ontario of a balanced and integrated ambulance service.
Le prix N.H. McNally a été établi en 1976 dans l'honneur de Dr. Norman McNally, le parrain du système ambulancier de l'Ontario. En 1966, la province de l'Ontario a demandé au Dr. McNally d'établir un réseau de services ambulanciers intégrés à travers la province. Under his tutelage, the first standardized ambulance training program was established at Base Borden in 1967, with the first true paramedic program conducted at Queen's University in Kingston shortly thereafter. His legacy today is dramatically improved staff training, the development of a standardized ambulance design, consistent patient care equipment, as well as an integrated provincial ambulance radio network.
Sous ses sages conseils, le premier programme de formation ambulancier a débuté à la base militaire de Borden en 1967. Cette même année, le premier programme de soins paramédicaux au Canada a débuté à l'Université Queen's à Kingston. Ces efforts ont radicalement amélioré la formation, la standardisation du système ambulancier, ainsi que établi des normes ambulanciers médicales et de radiocommunication pour les ambulances.
Sadly, Dr. McNally passed away in 1977 at the age of 62. The award in his name recognizes acts of conspicuous bravery in pre-hospital professionals in the performance of their duties and has a rich history of acknowledging paramedics who have risked their lives to rescue or protect others from harm. It is only presented when richly deserved.
Décédé en 1967 à l'âge de 62 ans, le prix porte le nom du Dr. McNally, reconnaissant les actes remarquables de bravoure de la part de professionnels dans le domaine préhospitalier, le prix N.H. McNally reconnaît les paramédics qui, lors de leur travail, risquent leur vie pour sauver ou protéger les citoyens de leur communauté.
Tonight, we honor 15 EMS professionals for their actions in 7 separate incidents.
Ce soir, nous honorons 15 professionnels de services médicaux d'urgence pour leurs actes de bravoure lors d'incidents reliés à 7 incidents séparés.
And now, the award recipients.
Et maintenant, les récipients du prix N.H. McNally. Mandy Purdy et Vanessa McDougall-Dykes, Hamilton EMS. And I apologize for that. Molendykes. Shortly after midnight on February 6, 2012, paramedics Purdy and Molendykes were dispatched to an apartment for a man who had fallen, struck his head. Once in the building elevator, they could smell smoke, and when they arrived at the patient's floor, it was immediately apparent that something was burning. The hallway appeared foggy. No alarms were sounding, but the smoke appeared to be seeping from above the patient's door. After checking to make sure the door was not hot, paramedic Purdy opened the door very briefly, causing thick smoke to exit and activate the alarms. During that short time, Purdy saw the patient lying on the floor beside his wheelchair and below the smoke line. He also heard screams for help. After calling the fire department, Purdy and Molendykes entered the apartment and quickly assessed the patient for injuries before dragging him to safety in the hallway. Purdy and Molendykes unfortunately suffered the effects of exposure to the sick chemical-filled smoke and required treatment in hospital before being released. Paramedics Purdy and Molendykes.
How are you doing there? In, follow her.
Follow the instructions of the... After the first couple, we'll get it going pretty quick. I'm not sure about me and the names, but...
Squish. Don't knock over the flag.
Bravo. Thank you. Congrats. Tyler Austin and Métis Browning, London Middlesex EMS, or Middlesex London EMS. I apologize to my colleague, he corrected me earlier. On the evening of May 8, 2012, Middlesex London paramedics Tyler Austin and Métis Browning were dispatched to an apartment building in the City of London for a patient with a history of psychotic and bipolar disorder exhibiting behavioral problems. The patient had apparently tried to stab her mother, and the crew was cautioned not to enter until police arrived. The crew stayed in the building as police had not yet arrived. They were met by the patient's mother, who urged them to help her daughter, who was having an emotional breakdown. They advised the mother they would not enter the apartment until police arrived due to the history of violence and weapons, but asked the mother to go in the unit and bring the daughter to them. The mother agreed, but soon returned yelling that her daughter was about to jump off the balcony. The crew decided to enter the apartment without police support and found the patient hanging from the third-floor balcony railing. The crew members each grabbed an arm just as the patient was letting go. A 2-minute struggle ensued with paramedics and the patient yelling, "Let me fall, let me go," before paramedics were able to bring her back over the railing. Police arrived shortly thereafter and helped escort the patient to the hospital. Paramedics Austin and Browning. Thank you. Okay. Holly Scherer and Michelle Rivard, District of Temiskaming EMS. On the morning of February 4th, 2012, paramedics Scherer and Rivard responded to a report of an unresponsive male trapped inside a collapsed bin. Upon arrival at the scene, they found a 29-year-old male who's submerged and is being suffocated. The two paramedics worked side by side with Engelhart firefighters to dig by hand for the victim. Doing so required them to enter the collapsed structure and search through the collapsing grain.
Tôt le matin, le 4 février de cette année, les paramédics Michel Rivard et Holly Shearer ont répondu à un appel pour un homme inconscient dans un silo. Entrouchés dans le grain, les paramédics ont entré dans le silo et, avec l'assistance des pompiers d'Engelhart, ont creusé à la main pour dégager l'homme de 29 ans.
After several minutes, they were able to locate the patient's head and arms, cleared his airway, and supported his C-spine until he could be extricated to a spinal board. The patient had aspirated a large amount of grain, and following aggressive suctioning and assisted ventilations, the patient was transported to the ambulance and to the local hospital. The patient was discharged the next day with no side effects from what could have been a fatal incident.
Après plusieurs minutes, ils ont pu récupérer la tête et les bras du travailleur et sont mis à dégager les voies respiratoires et immobiliser l'homme avant de débuter les mesures de sauvetage. L'homme a été transporté vers l'hôpital où il a été admis pour la soirée. Le lendemain, le travailleur a pu retourner chez lui sans effet secondaire de la presque mortelle situation.
When interviewed after the incident, asked if they felt they were in danger themselves during the rescue, their response was, "We just did what we had to do and couldn't stand there to watch a man die."
Quand ils ont été demandés de leur part dans le sauvetage et le risque à leur propre vie, les paramédics Rivard et Shearer ont déclaré « On a fait ce qu'on a dû faire. Il n'y avait aucune intention de témoigner du décès de cet homme. »
Ladies and gentlemen, paramedics Shearer and Rivard. Les Moore, Toronto EMS.
While working as a single responder on October 10, 2011, paramedic Moore responded to a motor vehicle collision. Upon arrival, he found a male patient unresponsive in a burning vehicle with gasoline flowing from underneath. Unable to access the driver's door, as the vehicle was up against a concrete wall, Les attempted to put out the fire with a fire extinguisher and succeeded in knocking the fire back enough to attempt to free the man from the vehicle. Shortly thereafter, the flames suddenly erupted and Les was forced to withdraw. The fire department arrived, allowing the patient to be extricated and treated by paramedic Moore for burns and smoke inhalation prior to arrival of other EMS personnel. Paramedic Moore.
Robert Bronson, Heiko Mueller, Toronto EMS. On November 4th, 2011, the two paramedics came across a fight involving two people at Danforth and Parkmount Avenue. Upon determining that one of the parties was a plainclothes police officer shouting that the other individual had his gun, the paramedics immediately wrestled and pinned the individual to the ground. The plainclothes officer was then able to secure the weapon before other officers arrived. Paramedics Bronson and Mueller. Go for your picture, my friend. Pictures. Well done, guys. Thank you.
Norm Roberge, Jamie Kerluke, and Murray Robinson, Toronto EMS. On October 16, 2011, paramedics Norm Roberge, Jamie Kerluke, and Murray Robinson responded to a medical call on Emmett Avenue. Upon reaching the 11th floor, they detected smoke and requested the attendance of the fire department. Further investigation revealed an apartment full of heavy smoke and the building superintendent holding an unconscious tenant on the balcony. Without concern for their own safety, they entered the apartment and extricated the patient to the hallway, where they began resuscitative measures. The patient ultimately made a complete recovery from the effects of severe smoke inhalation. Paramedics Roberge, Kerluk, and Robinson.
Thank you. Elizabeth Hargis, Nadia Archambault, Toronto EMS. On April 21st, 2011, paramedic Elizabeth Hargis and Nadia Archambault responded to a report of a 91-year-old male unable to breathe after a possible explosion at his residence. Upon arrival at the scene, they observed that the patient standing on the porch but could detect a strong smell of an unknown gas in the air. When the paramedics attempted to verbally direct the patient to leave his porch, he tried to re-enter his residence. Paramedic Hargis promptly went after him into the hazardous areas and forced him away from the danger. Once the patient was placed in the ambulance for treatment, the crew began to notice fumes that were overcome by hydrogen sulfide gas that was off-gassing from the patient's clothing. Decontamination procedures were required, but the patient and medics all recovered. Paramedic Hargis and Archambault.
You've just heard about our 35-year-long tradition of presenting the McNally Award to recognize acts of bravery while paramedics are on duty. In 2008, the AMEMSO Board of Directors recognized that a number of very worthy individuals were going unrecognized simply because their actions took place while they were off duty.
Vous avez témoigné d'une tradition de reconnaître les actes de bravoure, une tradition durant de 35 ans. En 2008, le conseil d'administration de l'Association municipale des services médicaux d'urgence de l'Ontario ont établi un nouveau prix honorant les paramédics qui ont agi avec courage et des actes portés hors des heures de travail.
As such, the board established a new award, the AMEMSO Award of Courage. Similar to the McNally Award, the AMEMSO Award recognized an action by an off-duty paramedic employee that required that individual to place themselves in a position of risk to rescue or otherwise protect another person from harm. This is the fourth year that the award is being presented, but it's the first time under its new name, the OAPC Award of Courage.
Conséquemment, le prix de bravoure AMEMSO a été établi. Parallèlement au prix NH McNally, ce prix reconnaît les paramédics qui ont risqué leur vie pour sauver ou protéger des citoyens et leur communauté. Ceci est la 4e année que nous présentons le prix, cette année sous le nouveau titre de OAPC Award de Courage, le prix de bravoure de l'Association des chefs de paramédics de l'Ontario. And now the recipient.
Mesdames et Messieurs, le récipiendaire.
Derek Kremen, Cochrane District EMS. During the early evening hours of July 2010, Paramedic Commander Derek Kremen was training for a triathlon at Gill Lake Beach in Timmins, where he observed a large adult male walking fully clothed into the lake. Local police officers were in pursuit, as unbeknownst to Kremen, the male was attempting suicide. The male swam out towards the middle of the lake with the police officers following. When they caught up with the male, a struggle ensued, with the male trying to pull the police officers below the surface with him. Mr. Kremen and 2 off-duty OPP officers training with him immediately ran into water and swam the 50 meters of the lake to where they located the patient and brought him to shore. Once on shore, the patient was found to be vital signs absent, and paramedic Kremen initiated CPR. Within a very short amount of time and prior to EMS arrival, the man was resuscitated and regained consciousness before reaching Timmins and District Hospital. Fortunately, all of the rescuers survived the incident. Ladies and gentlemen, Paramedic Kremen. Congratulations to our award recipients. Félicitations à tous nos récipiendaires. I'd now like to turn things over to John Pruneau, who will be your host for the EMS Exemplary Service Medal presentations. Maintenant, j'aimerais retourner la présentation à mon collègue John Pruneau pour les médailles.
Okay, just once.
There you go.
Yes, we do a little bit of construction here at the same time. Okay, thank you, Chief, for an excellent job both this evening and in steering all the efforts for and all the planning that's required for a conference as big as this one. We'll have you back a little later on. As already mentioned, this is the 12th year that we've been privileged to host these medal presentations honoring the career contributions of Ontario's paramedics. The Emergency Medical Services Exemplary Service Medal being presented this evening was created in 1994 by the late Governor-General Romeo LeBlanc as a component of the Canadian Honours System.
Comme mentionné plus tôt, nous nous retrouvons dans la 12e année où nous présentons ces médailles pour le service exemplaire pour les paramédics qui œuvrent avec fierté et honneur dans leur communauté. La médaille a été créée en 1994 par le gouverneur général Romeo Leblanc.
The award is more than a long service medal, but rather an exemplary service award presented to those eligible members of the pre-hospital emergency medical service who have served for at least 20 years in a meritorious manner, characterized by the highest standards of good conduct, industry, and efficiency. To qualify, at least 10 of these years of service must have been at street level, involving potential risk to the individual. Nominees must have been employees on or after October 31st, 1991, but may now be active, retired, or deceased. Since the award's inception, there have been approximately 1,250 Ontario recipients of the medal.
La médaille récompense les professionnels qui, dans le cadre de leur emploi, dans les services d'urgence médicale préhospitaliers au grand public, ont œuvré avec plus de 20 ans, dont 10 ans au moins à avoir eu des activités pouvant comporter des risques et qui ont accompli leurs fonctions de manière exemplaire, fait preuve d'une conduite sans reproche et accompli leurs tâches avec zèle et efficacité.
This evening, 122 individuals will join this exclusive club overseen by our Governor-General, His Excellency David Johnston.
Ce soir, 122 individuels recevront l'honneur de porter cette médaille, surveillée par son Excellence le très honorable David Johnston.
Before presenting this year's honorees, let's take a few moments to acknowledge 30 previous medal recipients who this year received service bars representing 10 additional years of exemplary service to their existing medals. The recipients are shown on the screen, and I know some of you are in the audience, so please stand and be acknowledged. I'll just add that the next slide is for our friends from Quebec.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. The next slide is for the friends from la coopérative des paramédics de l'Outaouais. Excuse-moi.
And I have to mention that on those two slides, there were 7 names bolded on the list that represent EMS careers that exceed an amazing 40 years in duration. So. And as a profession, I think we have, and Jim could correct me if I was wrong, I think we have 5 50-year recipients in Ontario. I don't think we'll see any more of those. Tonight we will be calling up medal recipients and senior staff from each municipality all at once. You'll have an early warning to move to Kevin at stage right. He's hiding over there. He's waving at you. And then everyone will climb on stage, stand on that side of the stage until your name is called.
Durant cette soirée, nous allons inviter les récipiendaires à s'approcher en groupe. Avant de vous avancer, il y aura une annonce de venir vous rassembler à la droite de l'estrade et quand annoncé, venir sur le plateau avec vous et vous placer sous la bannière.
Individual photos will be taken of each presentation, and then a group photo will be taken immediately after. You're welcome to take your own photos if you must, but the official photos will be provided to you electronically at no charge. Jürgen, our official photographer, will make sure you get the best shots without having to leave your seats.
Une photo sera prise de chaque individu présenté avec la médaille et par après une photo du groupe. On invite les gens à venir près de l'estrade pour prendre des photos, mais les photos prises par notre photographe officiel seront disponibles sans frais dans quelques semaines sur le site Internet de l'association.
And if you look inside your program, you'll see a website address for downloading the photos. We only ask that you wait until after Thanksgiving Day to begin using that site because it takes us a little while to get those photos organized. And now for this year's honorees. To present the medals, we're again extremely honored to have Major General Richard Romer with us this evening. General Romer is arguably Canada's most decorated citizen with a distinguished military career, concluding as Chief of Reserves for the Canadian Forces.
Et maintenant, il nous fait plaisir de vous présenter les récipiendaires de la médaille du gouverneur général pour service distingué des services d'urgence médicale. Encore une fois, nous avons l'honneur d'avoir présent parmi nous le général d'état-major Richard Romer. Le général Romer est un citoyen le plus décoré au Canada. Sa carrière militaire a conclu dans le rôle de chef des réserves des Forces armées canadiennes.
General Romer is a lawyer, a best-selling author, and a television commentator. Yet he always makes time for EMS here in Ontario, including serving as the honorary chief of Toronto EMS. And I should mention there's an error in the program. We called him the Deputy Superintendent of the OPP, and it's the Honorary Deputy Commissioner of the OPP. Sorry, General. Those of you who've heard him speak before know how fascinating an individual he is.
Le général Romer est un avocat, écrivain best-seller et commentateur à la télévision. Le général donne généreusement de son temps dans le rôle de chef honoraire des services médicaux d'urgence de Toronto et chaque année venir honorer nos paramédics avec la médaille de gouverneur général pour service distingué.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our very good friend, Major General Richard Romer.
Mesdames et messieurs, veuillez accueillir notre ami, le général d'état-major Richard Romer.
And I've never known the General to be without words, so I'm sure he'd like to make a few comments. And while he's coming over to the podium, could we have the recipients and senior staff from Cochrane, Cornwall, Stormont, Glengarry, and Durham join Kevin at what is your right side of the stage. General?
This is my 8th year performing this function, and I'm very proud to do it. It is a remarkable period of time that EMS has grown. My first event was in a place called Chatham, way down there in southwestern Ontario. And the crowd was small. Very few people wore uniforms, but it was a beginning. And the beginning has grown into this magnificent group here tonight. What, 600, 700 people. Fantastic. And the amount of service the amount of humanitarian service that has been performed by all members of EMS across Ontario is in effect astonishing. One of the objectives I had hoped to achieve personally in the period of time is for the Premier, and I'm still after him, the Premier, I organize his ceremonial events just for something else to do, such as Remembrance Day, which is coming up very shortly. but he decided 6 years ago that he would honor families of people in the military and the fire and police who had died during the year on duty. So it's the Premier's Tribute to the Fallen ceremony. I've been trying to get him to go for EMS as well, but I haven't succeeded. But I'm not finished. So it is a privilege for me to be here with you tonight. I attended the change of command of the Royal Canadian Air Force, which was renamed just a few months ago by the Prime Minister of Canada, to the great satisfaction of all of those of us who have served in the Air Force and those who still serve. It was a great event. So I'm doubly privileged today to be there and in full uniform. I'm the only general or serving officer, general officer who is